Vampires, werewolves, and zombies. Three of the most iconic monsters in horror history. They've haunted our nightmares, fueled our imaginations, and each one symbolizes a unique aspect of our deepest fears. But why do we keep coming back to them? Why are their stories retold, generation after generation, across different cultures and times? It's simple. These creatures represent timeless fears that we can't seem to shake. Death, transformation, and the loss of control. Whether it's the immortal vampire lurking in the shadows, the savage werewolf howling under the full moon, or the relentless zombie horde shambling through a post-apocalyptic world, they each embody something we dread. In this episode, we'll explore the enduring appeal of these monsters, digging into their origins, their powers, and their weaknesses. Then, we'll dive into a hypothetical matchup, pitting vampires, werewolves, and zombies against each other in a series of battles. We'll compare them based on speed, strength, intelligence, durability, and numbers. But remember, this isn't just about which one wins. It's about understanding why these monsters have stood the test of time and why they continue to terrify us today. So who do you think is the most terrifying? The cunning, immortal vampire, the primal, unstoppable werewolf, or the mindless, overwhelming zombie horde? Let's find out. Vampires have been a cornerstone of horror for centuries, capturing our imaginations with their blend of elegance and terror. These creatures of the night first appeared in European folklore, where they were seen as bloodthirsty monsters preying on the living. Over time, vampires evolved in literature and film, becoming the iconic figures we know today, from the chilling Dracula to the seductive modern-day anti-hero. What makes vampires so enduring? Perhaps it's their combination of supernatural powers and human-like qualities. Vampires are fast, able to move with inhuman speed, making them nearly impossible to outrun. They possess immense strength, far greater than any human, and their ability to regenerate from almost any injury makes them incredibly hard to kill. But their powers don't stop there. In many stories, vampires can hypnotize their victims, bending them to their will. This ability to control others adds a psychological layer to their terror, making them not just physical predators, but manipulators of the mind. Yet, for all their strengths, vampires have notable weaknesses. Sunlight burns them, turning their flesh to ash. They can be killed by a stake through the heart, and some lore includes holy symbols or silver as effective defenses. These vulnerabilities create a delicate balance. Vampires are nearly unstoppable in the darkness, but exposed in the light. Vampires continue to fascinate us because they represent a mix of fear and desire. They are monsters, yes, but also symbols of immortality and forbidden power. Their stories allow us to explore themes of death, control, and the allure of eternal life. But in a battle against other creatures of the night, will their intelligence and cunning be enough to survive? Or are there more primal forces that even vampires should fear? Werewolves are one of the oldest and most primal figures in horror mythology. The idea of a human transforming into a wild, uncontrollable beast dates back to ancient times, appearing in legends from Europe, Asia, and even Native American cultures. But despite these cultural variations, one theme remains constant. The werewolf represents the fear of losing control and becoming something monstrous. Unlike vampires, who are often portrayed as cold and calculating, werewolves are creatures of pure instinct and rage. Under the light of the full moon, an ordinary person transforms into a powerful savage beast. This transformation strips away their humanity, leaving only the primal urge to hunt and kill. When it comes to power, werewolves are unmatched in physical strength. Their claws and fangs can tear through almost anything, and their speed and agility make them formidable hunters. Unlike vampires, who rely on strategy, werewolves are fueled by brute force and animalistic aggression. But with all that power comes a significant drawback. Werewolves are bound to the cycle of the moon. They can only transform under the full moon, and outside of those few nights, they are vulnerable. Additionally, werewolves have a well-known weakness: silver. A silver bullet or blade is one of the only ways to kill them. Werewolves have captured our imaginations because they represent the beast within us all. The idea that deep down we are all capable of losing control and giving in to our most violent instincts. In modern horror, they continue to be a symbol of raw, untamed power. But while werewolves may dominate in terms of strength, can they outwit the cunning of a vampire or survive the sheer numbers of a zombie horde? When the full moon rises, will their primal nature be enough to claim victory? Zombies are perhaps the most chilling embodiment of fear in modern horror. Unlike vampires or werewolves, zombies are not driven by cunning or rage. They are mindless, soulless, and relentless. Originating in Haitian folklore as reanimated corpses under the control of a sorcerer, zombies have since evolved into a symbol of the apocalypse, representing the collapse of society and the loss of human identity. What makes zombies so terrifying isn't their speed or strength, it's their sheer numbers and persistence. A single zombie may not seem like much of a threat. They're slow, clumsy, and easy to outrun. But in a horde, they become a force that is almost impossible to stop. They don't need to eat, sleep, or rest. They just keep coming, driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Zombies are also incredibly difficult to kill. While vampires and werewolves can regenerate or heal, zombies are already dead. Their only true weakness is the brain. Destroying it is the only way to stop them. But in the chaos of an overwhelming horde, getting close enough to take them down one by one is often a losing battle. Zombies reflect a deep-seated fear of losing control, not of ourselves, like werewolves, but of the world around us. They represent a world where the systems we rely on have failed, where society has crumbled, and where survival becomes a constant, brutal struggle. In modern pop culture, zombies have become a staple of horror, from the slow-moving, reanimated corpses of George Romero's films to the more recent, fast-moving, infected humans seen in movies and television. They embody the fear of death and the horrifying possibility of being consumed by something that can't be reasoned with or stopped. But in a battle against vampires and werewolves, can zombies' overwhelming numbers be enough to overcome the cunning of vampires or the raw power of werewolves? Or are they simply mindless drones in a world where other monsters rule? Now that we've explored the backgrounds of vampires, werewolves, and zombies, let's imagine what would happen if these iconic monsters were pitted against each other in a one-on-one battle. Who would emerge victorious when these creatures face off? Round 1. Vampire versus werewolf. In terms of speed, vampires have a clear advantage. Their supernatural agility allows them to move faster than the eye can see, while werewolves rely more on their animalistic reflexes. However, when it comes to strength, werewolves are the dominant force. In their beast form, they possess immense physical power, capable of tearing apart nearly anything in their path. Intelligence is where vampires pull ahead again. With centuries of experience and strategy, vampires are not only hunters, but also master tacticians. Werewolves, on the other hand, rely heavily on instinct, which, while powerful, can be reckless. But in terms of durability, both creatures have an edge. Vampires can regenerate quickly from most wounds, but werewolves' natural resilience makes them hard to put down as well. So, in a one-on-one battle, the vampire's intelligence and speed may give them the upper hand, but the werewolf's raw strength and ferocity make it a close fight. Round 2. Vampire versus zombie. In a matchup between vampires and zombies, the vampire's speed and agility make it a clear winner in the beginning. A single zombie is slow and clumsy, no match for a vampire who can outmaneuver and outthink them easily. Strength is also on the vampire's side, as they can tear through a zombie with ease. However, zombies' true strength lies in their persistence. They don't feel pain, they don't tire, and they just keep coming. While a vampire can easily destroy one or two zombies, a horde could pose a greater threat. But ultimately, the vampire's intelligence and ability to strike from the shadows give it a distinct advantage. In a one-on-one battle, the vampire wins. Round 3. Werewolf versus zombie. In this matchup, the werewolf's speed and strength make quick work of a zombie. A werewolf's claws and fangs can rip through zombies in a matter of seconds. Zombies, being slow and mindless, don't stand a chance against the werewolf's hunting instincts. However, as with the vampire, zombies' numbers could be a problem. A single zombie is no match for a werewolf, But as a horde, zombies can wear down even the toughest opponents over time. But in a one-on-one scenario, the werewolf's raw power is far too overwhelming for a lone zombie to handle. In the one-on-one matchups, vampires and werewolves generally come out on top, with their speed, strength, and intelligence giving them the edge over zombies. But as we'll see in the next segment, things start to change when we consider group battles, where numbers and coordination play a much bigger role. Now, let's take things up a notch and see what happens when these monsters fight in groups. How does a vampire coven, a werewolf pack, and a zombie horde fare when facing each other? In a group battle, coordination, numbers, and sheer force will decide the victor. Vampires have the clear advantage in terms of speed and coordination. A coven of vampires is a well-organized force, capable of moving swiftly and silently, launching attacks from the shadows. With their ability to hypnotize, they can also manipulate their enemies, using mind games to create confusion before striking. Strategic intelligence is their greatest asset in a group battle. They can plan their attacks, retreat when necessary, and pick off their enemies one by one. However, vampires have a weakness. They rely on stealth and the cover of darkness. In an all-out brawl, they may struggle to fend off large numbers without a clear plan. But if they can stick to their strategy, a vampire coven can be deadly. Werewolves are the opposite. A pack of werewolves is a brutal, unstoppable force. Their brute strength and pack mentality make them incredibly dangerous in close combat. They attack as a unit, using their raw power to overwhelm their enemies. The werewolf pack is fast, ferocious, and relentless. They don't rely on strategy as much as vampires, but they compensate with sheer savagery. The downside is that they lack the tactical finesse of vampires, and in a prolonged fight, their rage can lead to mistakes. But in a head-to-head confrontation, werewolves dominate through sheer force. Then, there's the zombie horde. Zombies don't have coordination, speed, or intelligence, but they don't need it. Their numbers are their greatest weapon. A horde of zombies is nearly impossible to stop once it gains momentum. They move slowly, but they swarm their enemies, overwhelming them with sheer volume. Zombies are mindless, but they don't stop. They don't feel pain, and they keep coming no matter what. In a group battle, a zombie horde's greatest advantage is that they don't need to win quickly. They just need to outlast their enemies. Over time, their persistence could grind down even the most organized opponents. Battle dynamics. So what happens when these three forces clash? A vampire coven might pick off individual enemies with speed and precision, but they risk being overwhelmed by the relentless numbers of the zombie horde. Meanwhile, the werewolf pack could tear through zombies with brute force, but they'd need to be careful not to be outnumbered. In the chaos of battle, vampires may use their strategic edge to stay in the shadows, while werewolves charge headfirst into the fight. But as zombies swarm the battlefield, neither vampires nor werewolves can afford to let their guard down. The key question is, can the vampire's coordination and intelligence, or the werewolf's brute strength, withstand the endless waves of the zombie horde? In a group battle, strategy and patience are just as important as raw power. In the next segment, we'll explore how different environments might affect the outcome of these battles, adding another layer to this already intense showdown. When it comes to a battle between vampires, werewolves, and zombies, one key factor that could shift the outcome is the environment. Each monster has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the battlefield could play a huge role in determining who comes out on top. In a dense urban setting, vampires have the upper hand. Cities offer countless hiding places, dark alleyways, abandoned buildings, and underground tunnels, where they can strike from the shadows. The ability to use stealth and ambush tactics makes vampires dangerous in the urban jungle. For zombies, cities are ideal breeding grounds for hordes. There are more places to trap their enemies, more narrow spaces to corner them, and more opportunities to let their sheer numbers overwhelm. However, werewolves might find urban environments more restrictive. They need space to move, and the tight corners of a city could limit their speed and agility. But move the battle to a forest or wilderness, and the werewolves take control. In open natural environments, werewolves are in their element. Their speed and agility allow them to hunt with ease, using the trees and underbrush for cover. They can attack quickly and retreat just as fast, striking with the full force of the pack. Vampires, while still fast, might lose some of their advantage here. The open space doesn't provide as many hiding spots, leaving them more exposed. Zombies, on the other hand, are at a disadvantage in the wilderness. Their slow, stumbling movement makes it harder for them to navigate uneven terrain, and they'd struggle to keep up with the fast-moving werewolves or vampires. In wide-open terrain, like fields or deserts, the dynamics shift again. This environment favors zombies. Without obstacles, their overwhelming numbers can be more effective. They can spread out and surround their enemies, leaving fewer places to hide. Werewolves and vampires may find themselves exposed, with nowhere to escape as the zombie horde advances. Werewolves would still rely on their speed and brute force, but the open terrain means they could be surrounded easily. Vampires, without places to hide, would have to rely solely on their speed and cunning. Time of day also plays a huge role. Vampires are most powerful at night, when they can move freely without the threat of sunlight. During the day, they are vulnerable and would need to find cover. Werewolves, however, are bound to the full moon. Their power only peaks on those nights, making them much less dangerous outside of that window. Zombies, of course, don't care whether it's day or night. They just keep going, no matter the time. In the end, the environment can dramatically change the outcome of a battle between these creatures. In cities, vampires and zombies might have the edge. In forests, werewolves reign supreme. And in open spaces, zombies' sheer numbers could overwhelm all. But even with the environment factored in, the question remains: who is truly the most terrifying? In our final segment, we'll break it all down and compare these monsters in a head-to-head analysis. Stay tuned. Now that we've explored the backgrounds, battles, and environmental factors that could influence the outcome, let's break it all down and compare these legendary monsters one last time. When it comes to speed, vampires are the clear winners. Their supernatural agility allows them to move faster than the eye can see, making them nearly impossible to catch. Werewolves are also fast, especially in their beast form, using their agility to hunt down prey. Zombies, on the other hand, are notoriously slow, but what they lack in speed, they make up for in sheer numbers. In terms of strength, the werewolf reigns supreme. With raw animalistic power, a werewolf can tear through almost any opponent, including zombies and even vampires. Vampires, while strong, rely more on strategy and precision than brute force. Zombies, again, are weaker individually, but in large enough numbers, they can overpower even the strongest foes. When it comes to intelligence, vampires have the upper hand. With centuries, sometimes millennia of experience, vampires are not only intelligent, but also master strategists. They plan, they scheme, and they use their knowledge to outwit their enemies. Werewolves rely more on instinct and primal urges, while zombies, of course, are completely mindless, acting only on their insatiable hunger. In terms of durability, all three creatures have their strengths. Vampires can heal quickly from most wounds, making them hard to kill, but they have weaknesses like sunlight and stakes. Werewolves are incredibly resilient in their transformed state, but they are vulnerable when not under the full moon, and silver is their Achilles heel. Zombies, though slow and weak, are incredibly hard to stop. They feel no pain, and unless their brain is destroyed, they keep coming, making them arguably the most persistent of the three. This is where zombies dominate. While a vampire coven or a werewolf pack can be dangerous in groups, nothing compares to the overwhelming numbers of a zombie horde. Zombies may be slow and mindless, but their strength lies in their ability to swarm and overwhelm their enemies, grinding them down over time. So who is the most terrifying foe? It depends on what you fear most. Vampires are fast, cunning, and almost impossible to catch, making them the most dangerous hunters. Werewolves, with their raw strength and primal fury, can tear through anything in their path, but only under the full moon. And zombies? They may be mindless and slow, but their persistence and sheer numbers make them an unstoppable force. In the end, there's no definitive answer. Each creature brings something terrifying to the table, but that's what makes these monsters so iconic. Whether it's the elegance of the vampire, the savage power of the werewolf, or the relentless tide of the zombie horde, they all represent different aspects of fear that continue to haunt us. So what do you think? Which of these legendary monsters do you find the most terrifying? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of horror. After all, the battle between these creatures may never end, but the stories will continue to be told.